Hey everyone, welcome to a midweek ticker. Guess we should play the music. Okay, so the next 2 weeks on Conspirituality, we are going to have guest hosts, which I'm very excited about. So, not sure we'll be doing any tickers or we'll pre-record them. And this came to me today. I would usually hold it till Thursday, but because I'm not going to do one this week, I just thought I'd throw it up on socials. A listener reached out on one of our channels. Usually, I don't name people. Sometimes they don't want to be named unless they specifically say it. So I'll thank them for reaching out with this. And it's a festival happening in their home state of North Carolina. This is happening in Deerfields on June 25th to 27th. It's called the Freedom Festival, which is, quote, here for human sovereignty, radical authenticity, and the potency of connection, end quote. So you can probably guess where this is going already. It is very interesting to me for one big reason, which is that this is in hopes of helping to catalyze the creation of an autonomous community, which is very similar to something I predicted last year, what's happening in Austin with the medical freedom cult that is being started by Mickey Willis, Joyous Hart, Aubrey Marcus, and Del Bigtree was there, JP Sears, a lot of the people that we cover. Well, here's an example of another possible one that is starting. Right next to the synopsis, you discover that this festival is part of the Health Freedom Network that, quote, supports health and protects medical autonomy, end quote. So before I go into that, let's look at some of the events actually happening at the festival. There is a number of musicians playing. They're all regional artists, and that's great. I love regional festivals and supporting bands that are smaller and trying to make it. My hope is that they are going into this knowing why they're playing there. I hope that the musicians aren't just taking a gig to have a gig. If they're all in, they should be in. Otherwise, you wouldn't play something like this. Um, I will note that the headliners is quite a bit of appropriation of African American music happening by dreadlocked white people. But, again, the music wasn't that offensive for what I did listen to. There are 7 yoga instructors leading classes there. Same vibe. I just hope they know. There's some Kundalini, there's some Hatha, there's some Bikram somehow. But the workshops are really where you kind of get in. And most of the festival's workshops, there's the Millions Against Medical Mandates, a Patriots panel, which talks about pandemic, election fraud, and 5G. Of course, all three of those just thrown together. There's plant medicine, light energy, financial freedoms, because if you want an autonomous community, you have to talk crypto, ecstatic dances, fire rituals. Most everyone is white, as expected here. So a few on sacred water, an ecstatic shaking ceremony. That might be a new one. This one jumped out: mRNA vaccines, the soul and the future of health, where a doctor, and I didn't look that deeply into him, I'm sure he is, but he will provide a brief overview of Rudolf Steiner's understanding of human nature as a basis for discussing the spiritual implications of this new technology. The technology being mRNA vaccines, which are not that new. mRNA has been studied since 1989. It's been used in vaccines, at least studied test cases for over a decade now. Of course, COVID, obviously the first widespread dispersal and usage of them, absolutely. So in that sense, it is new. This doctor will share a case study from his own practice, which highlights how this technology can impact people on a soul level. So again, there's no medical research happening. I don't know what his case study is, but here you're taking something for which we have hundreds of millions of doses administered and a lot of actual real world data on the vaccines, and the soul, of course, being completely open for interpretation of whatever that person wants it to mean on that day. So, how it will impact that will, of course, be decided by what that person decides to invent during the workshop. Uh, he will also share how he was able to call upon the light of Christ to intervene in order to reverse the damage caused by the injected technology. And finally, he will share his current reflections on how the introduction of this unprecedented technology is demanding a reimagination of health and healthcare. This will include a discussion of specific steps that everyone can take to move his or her healing journey into the light of Christ. So, obviously, this is an indoctrination festival on many levels. So let's look at, if my mouse would work with me here, the Health Freedom Network. So their website opens up with a WordPress login, which is not a good sign for safety, and it has a broken plugin. So this is your site, you might want to pay a little more attention to that. But that said, when you get to the mandates that are listed here, that's where you find out that they're trying to create a sustainable network of humans in Western North Carolina. English is not their primary language, I would guess. Not that that's a bad thing, but I mean, they are English speakers, but their use of grammar is questionable throughout. That can support themselves despite any government, corporate, or pharmaceutical control laws or mandates. They want to be a lighthouse for light minded. So, again, they're creating an autonomous community here. Um, and as we've discussed before, some of the concerns are valid. They talk about environmental toxins contributing to disease and destruction. Absolutely. They want to support nonviolent ways to create awareness and build trust and unity. And again, all great ideas. I see plenty of the words that you would expect: compassionate, supportive, peaceful. Um, a lot of ambiguity here, but the last one jumped out. We transfigure the world through goodness, creating a sustainable planet where humans, plants, animals, and microbes live in symbiotic relationship as allies, not enemies. Microbes don't really care about us or our autonomy. We're vehicles for them to travel. And that's about the best. If you think about um, how pollen travels by attaching to bees, that's sort of what microbes do. And what the microbes do to us is not a concern. So, giving them some sense of inflated consciousness in order to make yourself feel better about not feeling harmony in nature isn't doing anyone any good. And that's really what, again, jumps out at me with all of these sorts of initiatives and projects: this idea that nature is only beneficial, and that because some people have messed that up somewhere, the rest of us are suffering. It's just a false view of nature. uh, we are lucky to be where we are as the apex predator. But it wasn't like that for most of history. And now we've gotten to a place where we are, and we are truly abusing our power to unprecedented and unsustainable levels. At the same time, to pretend that we are going to form a harmonious relationship with plants, animals, and microbes is just delusional. We can definitely do better, but there are always going to be toxins in the environment, including the ones we don't create, and we're going to have to figure out how to live with them. Same with animals. You know, if any other animal had the opportunity to be the apex, and if that involved the destruction of us to get there, they wouldn't think twice about it. They would just do that. And they've tried to do that. They'll continue to. We kind of have a lock for this short period of time. That will change, and the jellyfish are going to take over. And I think the quicker we are to realize that, the better we can do to defend ourselves, while also ideally constructing a better relationship. But let's leave that harmony out of it, or at least the idea that we're going to create some sort of harmony that's going to benefit everything on the earth. Last thought I'll leave you with, and there are two workshops on water, sacred water. And I am reading a book on what humans have done to California and the fact that we now plant more almond trees in the state of California than the entire size of Rhode Island. And so much of what you're seeing about this problem that we have with irrigating the rivers and streams and getting them to the Central Valley where they're all being grown has to do with this super indulgent health kick that that wellness community has been on about almond milk, for example, or eating almonds and how healthy they are. Well, to appease consumers, we've created a completely unsustainable situation here that will last probably not decades and maybe not even years at the rate that we're going. So while you're drinking your almond milk latte and posting about it, about how healthy you're being, an entire ecosystem, which controls nearly half of the country's food supply, by the way, is being endangered right now. So if we want to talk harmonious relationships, let's start a little bit closer to home. Let the microbes do what they need to do. Stop drinking the almonds. See you on Thursday.